Oh, because we can Sean. Yeah, it's good. Sorry, man, I was asleep. No, it's fine. You have to work out? I was so tired. I don't know
All right, okay, we clapped. This is the part one of the main event.
Who are you?
I'm Max, one of the teachers.
Hi, Max.
I assumed you all knew that. Love and quirk. Love. What do I love, Dom? Noises. I like noises, yeah.
You love us.
And my quirk is I keep my watch in GMT. For no particular reason. Well, mostly so I don't have to change times when I go to different time zones. It makes a lot of sense. So, you're going to see some cool stuff here. What's been produced has been produced in a week and a half, which is incredibly impressive. The things that I have seen, made, I can't imagine making in that amount of time. It's only possible with the group dynamics that are built and learned here, particularly with the skills that involve learning how to learn, how to develop new competencies in a very short amount of time. So I don't want to say much. I'm going to let the groups speak for themselves. We're going to jump right into this thing on the desk, and it's called Reflect.
We're currently missing our fearless leader, so bear with us while we track him down, please.
Classic.
Here's my one.
Oh, this is Mike. I didn't get the email to send. We'll see what happens. Okay, so welcome everyone. Yes, Max already did his introduction, but let's just dive right into it. Okay, so we're all really busy people. Morning is a time where there's a lot of things going on. Everyone has a process. Everyone needs to take time to get ready, see what the weather is like, what kind of traffic information is available. You have to, probably spend a lot of time in the bathroom. So, we were thinking, what's a good way of combining software and hardware in order to make your morning ritual, your morning routine, as efficient and as unique as possible? So we came up with this idea, and it's called Reflect. It's a smart mirror that uses facial recognition in order to log you into a profile and takes voice-activated commands in order to make sure that you can get any information you need when you need it. So let's go into it. So this is our team. Kevin, myself, and Sean, Chester, and Ken. So let's just go into goals. So when we started this process, we knew that there were a few things we really wanted to do from the get-go. We really wanted to dive into an unfamiliar tech stack. We really want to embrace the whole DBC methodology of drinking the Kool-Aid and really just kind of swimming in like this ocean of chaos, not really knowing what to do, how to take apart a really huge problem and break it down into its constituent parts. So when it came to that, we wanted to work with a mirror. We wanted to solve that problem to begin with. But two features that we really, really want to implement from the beginning, and we had zero idea how to do it, were facial recognition and voice-activated commands. And then we wanted to build something really beautiful, like not just something that we could demo, but something that we could take home and actually use, and like maybe fight each other at the end of the project to see who gets to take it home. So and at the end of the day, it's looking pretty good. So you'll get a chance to see it momentarily.
All right, so this is our tech stack. It's a little bit unusual because we are working with hardware and things that were created this year. So we worked with JavaScript and Node. That is our backend. And then we also did a lot of Python. The next three things I'm going to talk about is in Python. It's the Amazon Alexa, Snowboy, which is our voice detection module. And there's also Kairos, the facial recognition. And those are our two main features that we're using.
So as Sean did not quite get the chance to say, we sort of lucked into a dream team for this project because Ken has background in construction. So as soon as we started talking about it, he said, I'm going to make this nice. Someone's going to use this at the end of the day. Chester has experience using a Raspberry Pi, so that was one piece of the tech stack that we didn't have to learn from scratch. Sean pitched the idea, so obviously he was on board, and I've wanted to make a smart mirror for quite some time. When we got together, we laid out some things explicitly, like what our core hours would be on weekdays and weekends. We wanted to do frequent stand-ups, check in with each other, and make sure that we were very transparent on what we were doing and what was going on. Everything else was pretty informal and just sort of happened. We toyed around with a couple of different workflow ideas, like having to-do lists versus cards, and we sort of used both interchangeably. We ended up leaving the building together at least once a day, just, get coffee, what have you, get out of space. It really helped. And we made sure to commiserate with our frustrations and celebrate our successes together, which usually took the form of grabbing a beer in either situation. And so that was good for the team culture. We also came up with a high five for when something went awesome, but that didn't happen too often, so we're not going to demonstrate. And because we sort of left everything out there in the open, communication was big for us because if we came across something that we hadn't talked about earlier, we knew that we could just pause whatever we were doing, hash it out, and figure out how we were going to move forward, which was a big key with our revisions because as we learned more about our tech stack and about smart mirrors in general, we had to change our conception of what we were going to be producing at the end of the day, and we couldn't have done that without good communication.
All right, this was a really interesting project, but it had a lot of obstacles. Unfortunately, the biggest thing was the tech stack. It was new to all of us. It was, with the exception of JavaScript, which we learned about 3-4 weeks ago, everything was brand new. So because of that, the first 3, maybe 4 days was nothing but research. We probably didn't write a single line of code before then. I dove into the facial recognition, Chester dove into voice detection, these two just Electron and the modules. Another big problem was the lack of documentation. Snowboy is pretty new. There's almost no documentation on it. Kind of the same with Kairos. It's not that new, but the problem is it's not used very often. And then our successes, let's see, we were able to integrate functionality into a modular system, port functionality into the Raspberry Pi, meaning we're able to fit it all into a Raspberry Pi. If you don't know what it is, it's a little CPU. So it was able to be enclosed in a, well, like you'll see in a minute here. We got facial recognition and voice commands working. So let's see a demo of it.
All right, so I worked mostly on the voice detection. So I'm going to actually say all of the voice commands. Kairos doesn't like my face. So we're going to have Kevin stand in the mirror and I will talk to him too. Oh, and also because the mic is very sensitive, let's keep our voices down. We'll hold the applause for after.
So we hit our MVP pretty early on, a mirror that can reflect. But can it do more? All right. So Chester just hit the command to run our Raspberry Pi program. In a real world setting, you have it configured so that it starts up as soon as the device turns on. But there was one feature that we wanted to demonstrate for you.
Reflect.
So that beep means that Snowboy noticed a hot word that Chester said, and that hot word starts up our entire product. So now you can see the default smart mirror in front of you. Has some different modules. We have some compliments that scroll across the screen, US holidays, date, time, weather, and forecast. But as Sean was talking about, we want this to be a personalized mirror experience. And so that's where our facial recognition comes in.
Look at me.
And so what just happened is Chester activated the facial recognition module. The webcam shot up, took a picture of me, still streaming the video, but the picture is being sent up to our database in Kairos, which is running my face against everything in there to see if it recognizes who I am. And the API call itself takes about 10 to 15 seconds, so there is a bit of a delay in terms of sending the information up and having the screen change. All right, it's also entirely possible that Kairos is like, who is this person wearing a suit and tie? Where's the tank top and the Hawaiian shirt? I don't know this person. So let's try it again.
Look at me. Look at me.
We found out that Snowboy really likes that long E. So we can wait a little bit again to see if Kairos actually recognized me this time. Yeah, it really likes that long E. So it doesn't look like we're going to be able to demonstrate the
facial recognition right now.
But that's okay. We can continue on.
Yeah.
On the default profile.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I like music, so I like to have a little something play in the morning while I'm getting ready. So I might say,
Toothbrush song. Toothbrush song. Toothbrush song.
So just a really nice way to start your day.
In a perfect world, everyone would have their own customized toothbrush song, assuming our camera recognizes.
But then, I want a little bit more than headlines or forecasts. I had a random shower thought, and so I might say,
Summon Alexa.
You have summoned Alexa. What knowledge do you seek, mortal?
and so then I would be able to ask a question, like, I don't know why, but I'm really curious, what's the population of Indonesia?
Alexa. What's the population of Indonesia?
The population of Indonesia is about 255.
That's Amazon's fault, not ours. So with our Alexa integration, you're able to get information that is not built into one of our modules and really just go after it. And then, I might also want a walkout song, like I'm in a movie and the soundtrack is playing, right, as I'm getting ready to go. So I might say,
Panda, 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 panda.
reflect.
Demonstration of the facial login. It tends to work in other lighting somewhere else, so you can come find us later. Oh wait, do we need the slide off? No.
No.
Any questions?
Oh, I'll ask one.
Yes.
Did you say hi to your mother, Penny?
Yes.
I did choose like the underlying kind of like mirror modules or like which stuff to use to kind of build on top of.
Right, so we did a lot of experimentation trying to figure out what would be the best way of creating a smart mirror. Like the first process was, how do we define a smart mirror? Is it a mirror that you can talk to? Is it a mirror that just displays information? Is it a glorified tablet behind the screen? And we decided that we really wanted to be able to have a customized experience. So we did some research. We found out that there were some people who made kind of like an underlying smart mirror structure. And the really cool thing was that they built a bunch of modules for it. Their entire framework was based off of modules. So we realized at that point, we could continue to build off of their existing modules or come up with brand new features as well. So the facial recognition, the voice commands, the Alexa, the Panda thing, all of that, we built all that from scratch, but we had a lot of help from a lot of the open source code that we managed to find. Yes?
Are there any plans to make a mobile version for those of us that want to look at ourselves on the go?
I'm really glad that you asked that question. That came up several times in many of our stand-ups. We're going to have to talk to our marketing department about that, but I'll get back to you shortly. Yes.
Sean, is there any stretch for goals that you have with computer or capabilities that you can use the camera with?
I would really like it to be able to use motion detection at some point. So like as soon as you walk into the bathroom, it's always on and it just detects if someone is there and you would only have to like look at it briefly. Right now it uses facial recognition by taking a snapshot of you. So you kind of have to like freeze for a second. We would eventually like to be able to get it to do live streaming facial recognition in the same way that like Snapchat does their face masking. It's very quick with very little latency, but those are all optimization issues. Okay.
Thank you, Reflect. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
You guys, you're gonna disassemble?
Yes.
All right. This is going to be an interesting process. How are the rest of the graduates feeling?
Nice work.
Yeah, good teamwork.
Yeah.
Top to bottom, cooperation. All right. Hunter. Next project. It's called Hunter. Sounds like something around here. I do.
Hi everyone, we are Team Hunter. So everyone on our team really loves planning and playing treasure hunts. Particularly, like personally, I like to plan treasure hunts for my sister at home. And I've told everybody this, but like the clues that I drop in our apartment will lead her to like something gross, like a dirty sock or whatever. So like that kind of like triggered this idea, like why don't we make a treasure hunt game for your phone, so you don't actually like physically have to be in the vicinity to drop clues for your friends, so that you can play this augmented reality game like anywhere in the world. So this is our team. I am Millie.
I'm Edward.
I'm Sarah. And I'm Amanda.
Cool. So, hey guys, so I'm sure all of you guys are familiar with Pokemon Go, right? Cool. So Pokemon Go was built over many, many years, but we had 8 days. So since we only had 8 days, it was a very intimidating project for us to tackle, and this is something that we didn't know anything about. So what we did was we set goals for our team on what we want to accomplish. So in order for us to do that, we wanted to implement an AR framework, build a fully functional iOS application, and build an interactive game between users. And also, we wanted to have users to play multiple hunts and multiple games when they're outside in the field. Also, with all this, we really wanted Git workflow, because without Git workflow, we would crash and burn. So in order for us to do that, we needed some implementation on what kind of features we wanted to use for our augmented reality app. And to do that, we set these implementations, which were a point of interest at specific locations. And these were our clues at certain locations that we set up through our backend API. Also, when you find your treasure at the last clue, we implemented a 3D model geo object that appears when you find your clue when you get to the last one. And also, the iOS, so we wanted a fully functional app. And so in order for us to do that, we wanted to move iOS native feature views into the AR view, which was a big tackle for us. And also a big tackle for us was the Rails API backend. And so we, instead of hard coding in points of interest from the front end, we had a backend database that can hold all multiple games from the backend, which is pretty awesome.
So unfortunately, we can't display this for you in person because we would have to send you all out on a treasure hunt, which would be awesome but take way too much time. So we have for you a demo. And what you'll see in this demo are our introduction page, our instruction page. Those will go by pretty quickly. But then we'll come to the actual gameplay. You'll get to see the things that Ed actually mentioned. You'll see the clues pop up. You'll see them transition from one to the next. And then you'll get to see the prize at the end. So enjoy. Our game doesn't play that right. So we built all of this on an exciting tech stack, a lot of which we had never worked with before. What's hosting our backend is Heroku. That's the actual website that holds our backend, using a Postgres SQL database, and is all built on Ruby on Rails. And that's all separate entirely from our front half, our front end, which is a mix of all these different things. Wikitude is our big win, I think, for our tech stack. It's really using, it's an SDK that really does all the AR for us, and we had to use JavaScript in order to run it. And then to host it all is Apple, Objective-C. That's what makes us able to run it on an iOS system.
All right. Can you hear me? Okay. So successes that we had, we were able to accomplish a lot in 8 days. And the first thing that we had to do was really just get the AR up and running in the iOS, which we hit pretty quickly. And we also were able to learn a lot about Xcode and how to make constraints so that it looked properly on the phone. And one of our big successes was just having each of the points of interest show up one at a time. When we, like, the default setting is that it will show all of the points of interest at once. So we had to write more JavaScript to make it actually go through, like, loop through each one. And being able to select more than one map was also a huge success, because at the beginning we were like, MVP, let's just have at least one map. And now we have the functionality that we can actually put in more maps. And also just setting up our API so that it was completely independent of the front end was a big success. And getting there was not always so easy. So especially like learning all of the new technologies. Sometimes we didn't know how to make the Objective-C work with the JavaScript Wikitude stuff. And we had to try things. It didn't always work. And then we had to find other alternative routes to accomplish what we wanted to do. Getting the stock image at the end of the game in the game was also quite a challenge. And also parsing data in Objective-C and in Wikitude was not the easiest, going from our backend and like pulling that in and actually making it useful.
Group dynamics, whoa. Group dynamics are really important. Especially when you're spending 8 days really intimately with each other, trying to make this giant project work. So some of the things that we had were a ham horn. The ham horn is this like sound. Some folks and some groups use safe words in order to be able to just, say a word and then exit the building if you need to go because you're stressed or like you've been working on something. We used a horn. It was great. It saved our lives sometimes. A Kanban board is a system to organize our day. It helped us it was basically just Post-its saying, this is what we want to do, this is what we're working on, this is what we're done with. And it was an awesome way to track where we were at. You can see, this is toward the end of our week. All the things we got done are on the end. We used burn down charts, which were awesome and run by Sarah, and helped us track things throughout the day in another way, in another visual way. That basically you start with one point, and over time you start to increment the, what do you call that?
You increment all of the tasks down until you hit 0. Ideally, you hit 0. And if not, then you kind of see, oh, tomorrow maybe we shouldn't take so much onto our plate.
Yes, it's very, very effective. We also give each other 360 feedback. We talked with one another and really were honest about where we were at, how we were doing, things that we would hope for in the future as a group. We ate meals together. We also did really amazing Git workflow, which was, as Sarah said, quite challenging with Xcode, but we worked together to make sure that we were constantly making that work out really well.
So next steps for our team. Right now, for our group project, we really wanted to focus on like the AR side. So we didn't really get a chance to build out like the map maker side, which is like a pretty integral part. So that's one thing on our task list. And with that comes user authentication too, which we would add to the back end. And then I don't know if you guys remember, but like on the AR screen, there was a little icon of a treasure chest. So that's like us thinking about the future as well, because we want to be able to a user can click on this treasure chest icon and see a list of all of the like past treasures that they found. They would see a like little sock or like other icons. Okay, cool. And one other thing that we want to try out for like next steps is to look into other AR technologies, because right now we just stuck with Wikitude SDK, and there's like a couple other ones that we haven't really like gotten a chance to dive into.
And we didn't make it here all by ourselves. We had lots of help, and we wanted to say thank you to all of these people and to all of the Dev Bootcamp staff and that helped us on our journey in the last week. And we also wanted to say that if you all look under your chairs, you might actually find a special treat.
Chosen hunter.
So I'm sure you guys have questions.
Kevin.
Does this also kill your battery as fast as other games of this type?
That's actually something we have not tested yet. I believe that there's one way that we're kind of tracking the user over time. That might slow the program down a little bit. But again, if we're to work on this in the future, that's something we will really spend a lot of time doing, because we want the user's experience to be optimal.
It sounded like you had a hard time with Objective-C. What made you guys decide to go with that as opposed to, like, say, another like React Native or something like that? Use that in your
The SDK by Wikitude is written in an Objective-C environment. And so, although it's JavaScript, it's like in this Objective-C framework. We originally were thinking, oh, let's write Swift and then bridge the Swift to the Objective-C. And then probably just from lack of knowledge of how things work, we were like, okay, we can't really get this bridging to work. Let's just write it in Objective-C. So in hindsight, we might have gone more on the Swift side, and we'll probably explore that more in the future. But that was just a limitation of our SDK. There was another question.
Oh, I was wondering how hard is it to like overlay like the mapping, and like how far you guys have gotten now in terms of like the area of the game.
Of mapping. So the SDK, you can put points by geolocation, latitude and longitude, anywhere in the world, and it's going to work. The way that it like layers in the actual screen is that there's actually like several layers of information within the one view of the augmented reality. So you have your Objective-C like layer, and then you have this like augmented reality layer underneath it. And you can have like HTML and stuff popping out between that as well.
I do want to mention as well, when the user plays a game, wherever they start, we provide a distance number between the user and the point of interest, so they know how far that point of interest. So if you start the game in Europe, it'll tell you the distance between
you and DBC or
yeah,
whatever.
you and DBC, which is
yeah. There was one more question.
That was my question.
Okay.
Do you have plans to make this available for Android users?
I I think that's why we want to explore other like augmented reality technologies, because this one was specifically for iOS, and we're kind of like stuck in the iOS environment because of the particular like version of the SDK that we chose. So I think if we are to like revamp everything, we're gonna probably do something that's good for like all types of operating systems.
Thank you so much.
This mic is totally dead. I'm gonna pretend it's working. I love this AR stuff. It's pretty sweet. My last job, I didn't work on it, but I'm jealous of who did work on it. Like really nice overlays and engines and stuff. So, I forgot how to pronounce your thing, even though I asked you 15 minutes ago. Simo. All right. Next up, Simo.
Like Smeagol. Hello, everyone.
Whoa.
All right.
Yeah, they're both dead.
Oh, it's dead.
Yeah.
We can
It's a
do
prop.
it.
It looks cool. Okay, it's different. Okay. So back in 2013, I was living in Turkey, and at that time there was already 800,000 Syrian people resettling there. And 3 years later, there is currently 2.7 Syrian refugees in just Turkey alone. And internationally, there are 5 million Syrian people displaced. So when I was back in phase 1, actually, I was trying to think of what I should do for my passion project in phase 2. And I reflected on how 3 years later, being in the US, there's just a huge disconnect in the international community between awareness and action, specifically about the refugee crisis. And I was kind of tired of just hearing all these distant, spotlighted accounts of one refugee, and then it was through a journalist's lens. And then at the end of reading about it, you couldn't contact them or even know what that person specifically needed. So I thought, now that the world is smaller with technology, and 85% of Syrian youths in refugee camps do own smartphones, what better way than to have an app where you can really connect people to people and see really easily a scrollable list of firsthand accounts, daily accounts, like stories of a person of a refugee status. But not only just hear their story, but at the end of it, be able to also see what they specifically could use to help and better their condition, and a way to contact them. So I realized pretty soon that this idea was a bit bigger than the scope of phase 2 passion project. And it would only be exponentially more powerful, not only working on it just by myself, but with a team, building and working together. So we built a mobile app called Simul, which in Latin translates to together. So this is the team. Hello. I'm Danielle Hasid.
I'm Oshoke Mikey.
I'm Justin Bryant. Nikolai Nitescu.
So we have some titles that we gave each other. I've been denoted the Oracle. Shoke is our Flow Master, aka Git Flow Master. We have Nikolai the Wise, the master of populating our React Native front end. And Justin, the Wizard of Happiness, the Scrum Master, the Design Happy Master. I'm going to pass it off to Shoke.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about our team goals. For our MVP, like Danielle mentioned, we wanted to really have a decoupled app that just was, users were able to post stories they were able to browse other user stories, and they were able to contact other users. We really wanted to get to just raw stories, no journalism filters, no umbrella organization filtering which user story. So it's just the latest story just pops up as our featured story in our app. We really wanted to learn a new technology, and that was React Native for our front end. We deployed a live Rails app API to Heroku. A big thing was making our app accessible to as many people as possible. So Arabic is the main language in Syria, so we wanted to have a translation from English to Arabic in our app. And another big goal for us, last cohort, Golden Bears, broke the commit record. So we wanted to go for it this time around. And we'll talk about that later. So in terms of our workflow, our core hours were 9 to 10 p.m. Some days we went a little bit over, but I think that just spoke to the group. Like, we were very committed to kind of finishing this app and getting it to where we wanted it to be, to kind of have users actually able to use it and whatnot. So we had regular stand-ups throughout the day with mini parties and handshakes to kind of keep our morale and spirits up. In terms of our Git workflow, we actually set up our repos the same way we do our challenges, in that we made a repo in the Red Panda organization. We all cloned separately. So we were able to push to our, fork separately. We were able to push to our forks and pull down from the main development repo. And we also had like great communication. Our group dynamics were awesome. We had lots of laughs and like rolling around in the yoga space, just having a good time there. Like, our spirits were up. I'm like really grateful that this was our group for the final project, and I had a great time. So with that, I will pass it on to Nikolai for the tech stack.
So regarding our tech stack, sorry, we have our backend deployed on Heroku, and we use a database in Postgres. The backend is done in Ruby and Rails, and for the front end, we use the React Native framework with JSX and JavaScript. Also, we use GitHub for the storing our front end, and the tools for editing was Atom, and for communication, Slack and Trello.
All right, so we're going to show you kind of how that all played out. So as you enter our app, again, the idea was that when a user enters, they'll be able to see the latest story and then be able to browse through a variety of other stories. So we'll pick one to kind of give you an idea of how that would work. Again, we can read a story. We, again, are really into this firsthand storytelling. We want to connect with our neighbors around the world. Once we're there, we can go into a profile where we find a little bit more about them, where they're at, some things about their skills. When you're relocating, how do you get a job? You know, we're trying to like let people tell their own stuff. We can then go in and let them create a new story, add images to that story, again, personalize it, tell their story the way they want to. We also have it set up so that not only a sharing of story, but a user can receive messages. So we'll take a look. The ever playful Tolson has a message here about toys for the user. We also have it set up that you could see a list of the user stories. You may want to read more of those. And also, it was mentioned earlier, to be able to contact someone who's a user. Hey, I'm in your area. I saw that you have these skills. I saw that you're looking for this. Let's connect. Let's actually work together. And so we built that into the app. Another thing that was mentioned a moment ago is that we really want this to be accessible, not just to English speakers. And so we did create our app so that it's available also in the language that actually is more relevant to our project. And so we'll give you a quick demo of that, where a new user could create an account and, again, understand the language that they're working in. And the same thing for logging in if you're an existing user. So that's where we're at right now, working together. So. Sorry about that.
So we had some obstacles on our path. We were doing our front end in React Native, and there is a lack of documentation for that. It's pretty new, and there has also a lot of updates. So many times, even if there was some documentation, the documentation was already old, and we couldn't use it. On another side, we wanted to upload images, and that is a problem sometimes if they are big and you don't have enough storage, or the speed is not good enough. So probably in the future we're gonna find a better solution for that. We had to troubleshoot also environmental errors for React Native. It was pretty hard to do that since we didn't have documentation. We wished to use Google Map and Translate API. It didn't work very well. They were kind of slow. So yeah, learning React Native in 5 days also is really hard.
While there were several challenges with the project, it's kind of already been alluded. We had a great team dynamic, which I think afforded us the ability to really dig deep and accomplish some things. One of the things we set out right from the beginning to do is to, again, create this decoupled app and take the things we've been learning here and actually do something with it. And we did that, which was awesome. Nikolai just said, how do you learn like React Native in just a few days? But our entire team worked really hard and have really made progress there. I think that's something we're definitely celebrating. We've mentioned this a couple of times, but if this app's actually going to be useful, it has to be understandable. It has to be global in scope. It has to have the ability for international users to use that. So integrating the language stuff that we have. And again, I've already mentioned a functional decoupled app, which we showed you a little bit about. And then there was this talk again of this whole commit record stuff. So just so you know, we didn't set out to just break a record to break it. Like there's no like stupid commits in our workflow. But one of the things we were committed to was really being meticulous about our process and how we were creating, which led to a new commit record, I think, of, let's see, oh yeah, 601 commits.
Good test, Hunter. Good test. So, our future plans. So, moving forward from this week, we definitely plan on using Amazon's S3 for image upload and storage, so we can actually have a database that can handle storing high-resolution photos, because stories are powerful with photos, obviously. And our top priority would be building out Android, because we intentionally use React Native due to the fact that it is incredible at creating cross-platform mobile applications incredibly quickly. About 80% of the code that you make in one is reusable in the other. So we're going to plan on doing that. The reason we did iOS first was because about 90% of the tutorials are in the iOS version, and due to our time constraint, we were like, well, we should probably go with the one that has the most documentation, which is not saying much, but there is some documentation on that. So we went with that. And also translating our user input. If you notice, right now we have the capability for your phone to automatically detect if it's in Arabic or English, and it will load the skeleton, right, in Arabic or English, which is amazing. But we also want to take that further and just be able to have a user who inputs a story in Arabic or English can then translate that automatically as well. Because as Nikolai touched upon, the Google Translate API, like if you use that, it would be way too slow if you had everything translating. So we would have to find a workaround for that. And that brings us to the next part. Obviously, we want to deploy it to the App Store and Google Play Store so that users and real refugees can actually sign in and create accounts. The things that you saw are actually real accounts of Syrian refugees seeded to our database, but we want more than just seeds. We want real people really using it. So we're very excited. We really do plan on taking this app forward and building it out into something at a production level. And we all have discussed how we have connections to people to actually make that happen. So we're really excited. And that takes us to our thank yous. We have a few particular thank yous. Thank you, Seva, our on-site React Native consultant. Sarah for the Arabic translations, Lou, Kelvin, happy birthday. Justin, Mikey, Ruben, thank you. Thank you so much.
Question.
You mentioned you wrote a lot of tests. Like, what kind of tests did you write? Like, RSpec or Cafeteria?
Yeah, they were our spec tests for the back end, just testing models like controllers, routes, things of that nature.
So what were your biggest challenges with regards to like translating or having a different language that you were working with in your program?
That part was it was pretty simple because there's a thing called I-18N, and it allows you to have internationalization and localization where you can really just have like a giant array of everything you want translated in a specific language. So I just had my friend double check that Google Translate's Arabic translations were legit. And once we had that, yeah, we were rolling.
How are you guys? You said you have plans to like move forward with getting this on the App Store. Have you like? How do you get into like? How do you get it on the radar of the actual refugees? Like.
That's a great question. And actually, what was so cool about I think this project for me, at least, and I think all of us, really early on, we started talking about that, and we didn't. I don't think we actually knew this, but as we talk, each of us are connected to someone or someones who, in some capacity, are actually partnering with these neighbors who are currently find themselves in refugee status. So, like, there's some real opportunity there. We're pretty stoked on that. So it's through our networks and relationships.
Wow.
Do you all want to keep it open source, or do you?
Definitely, more the merrier.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, how are you planning to build a business model out of it, or are you planning to make it a nonprofit? How do you? I think at the end of the day, you have to have revenue in order to get yourself out there. What have you thought about? What route you guys would take?
I mean, we've discussed that we want to first build it on Android, so it's available for that to begin with. And then we're going to talk to the people who are more working with refugees and know refugees personally to see like what kind of model would be sustainable. As of now, we were just focusing on getting the tech.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on adding audio or video to the user stories?
Yeah, I mean, anything's possible. Why not? Sure, it's gonna happen. That'd be great. Any other questions? Thank you.
Very cool. It's a really pretty app. All right. Up next, we have a crew that's going to ruin my immaculate AV setup here. Before and after.
Yeah.
Come on up.
Sure.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. We are before and after an augmented reality application. My name is Partha here. I worked on the Wikitude backend and the Xcode frontend.
Hey, I'm Colson. I mostly worked on the backend of Wikitude and kind of dabbled here and there in other areas.
My name is Aaron. I pretty much focused on the front end using Wikitude and dabbled in all the other areas where help was needed.
Hello, my name is Hayden. I worked on Xcode, Swift, and WT3.
And I'm Nelson. Thank you all for coming. I pitched this idea. It's always a special thing when you get to work on something that you really truly believe in. This idea is about augmented reality. And what makes augmented reality such a special technology is because with augmented reality, you can take a place in time, literally the current spot that you're in, and actually show things that have happened historically in the past, things that are going to happen in the future, right where you're standing today, right now. That's why we decided to build before and after. It is designed for you to literally stand on an intersection, open up the app, and have a look around. So with that said, we're really proud to say that Aaron and Hayden are going to demo the product.
All right, thank you, Nelson. All right, we're gonna fire the app up. It should take a second. All right, here you can see the home screen. It's pretty much where the app defaults when you open it. It's kind of got list functionality, lists out various locations. As you can see, Baygrid, Salesforce Power, Translate Terminal, these are some of the ones we're going to show. Next up, we have Maps. We implemented Apple Maps for this, although we didn't fully get it working, but you can zoom in and pan and scan. In the future, we probably want to use Google Maps. And kind of the core feature we wanted to highlight was the augmented reality piece. So currently, if you fire it up, Aaron's going to spin around and you'll be able to see some of the points of interest pop up. And so you'll find one and click on it. There you have a museum. It shows the distance, a little bit of info, and there's some other functionality which we're going to show you here in a bit that dives into what happens when you actually get close to one of these.
Okay, so unfortunately, we can't take you guys to the physical destination. So what we did was create a compilation of videos of point of interest where hopefully it'll spark your guys' imagination.
Oh yeah, okay, don't forget about
Thank you, guys. So this was the kind of just a set of compilation that we threw together. Obviously, doing this in real life was very complicated. It took a lot of configurations, a lot of testing, a lot of different moving something up or down a little bit, left or right, and we were literally sitting on the street just like hunched up on the corner with our laptops just typing and figuring things out. And people were like taking pictures of us and like, what are you guys doing? Like, you guys are like crazy people, like looking at stuff. So we wanted to go back a step to the beginning and show you actually long range and fast forward some of these videos in their full stretch. So you can actually get a sense for what it's really like outside of just the premium bits. So you can see that with Salesforce Tower, this one matched up nearly perfectly. It was just the architects and the pictures that we got from their rendering site were so good that it was very, very accurate via the distance. This was Moscone Center. This was probably our best shot. Again, the architects really got this one right. At the distance, everything lined up perfectly. We didn't have to make barely any changes. But you can see as the image is flashing in and out that the reason why it's not holding where it is because the image is using a 2D recognition software. So we took a picture of the area that we were going to look at, and the image is actually flashing in and showing you what will be there. We ideally wanted to make a 3D model. The 3D model would have actually held a building in place, and you could actually walk entirely around the side of the building and see the side of the building. Unfortunately, that was one of our biggest hurdles during this project, is that the WT3 files were extremely difficult for us to implement. We could find them in a 2D representation, but we could not figure out how to actually make them in 3D. We didn't have a full-on designer to make that work, so we used the 2D image recognition, but 3D would be amazing. So with that said, I'm going to pass it off to Parth to talk about the tech stack.
How's it going, everyone? So yeah, our main framework that we used was Xcode. Without Xcode, none of this would be possible. But additionally, without Wikitude's image recognition and mixing that with Photoshop, like just as Nelson said, the 3D rendering and changing the pictures to W3 files was a very, very big hurdle. So as a result, we used Photoshop, got some images from some of these developers and edited it so it would render correctly. On top of that, the main body of our framework was we used JavaScript, Swift, and Objective-C. Although we were not too confident with our Objective-C skills, we did use a little bit of it through the help with our mentors. We used GitHub and Slack to communicate with one another, and yeah, that's about it.
All right, so what's next? What's tomorrow? Some of you youngins might not get this reference. We definitely want to work close with the architecture firms because it'll be easier to obtain the 3D models and other resources. We've already successfully been able to create a geo object where you can click on it and it'll take you to a website. So, you know, it'll take to the other website and it'll give you more information about the building. So that's a possibility. Another step is to create a user front end where a user can actually put in their information, the address, and then we can render the 3D model at that location. So those are a few of our next steps. Nelson will tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, we just wanted to do a special shout out to all the people that helped us out. Even the complementary AR group that was working alongside with us, we worked closely the first few days to help get off the ground. Wanted to give a really special shout out to the Invisible Thread team. They really helped push us forward as they were our predecessors and really helped lay the groundwork for how to actually get this thing from 0 to 1. So thank you so much to Will and Carrie Leanne. Cool. Thank you so much. Woo!
Any questions? How is it that you guys were rendering the after images? Did you pull that from the architect designs, or how did you get this?
Yeah, we pretty much went to the architect sites. We kind of found one website that showed all of the new construction going on a map, and we just picked out the best ones. We didn't want to walk too far because it took a really long time. We probably spent like over 10 hours of actual time, like 3 of us going out and getting all this footage. So it took a lot of time just to get the footage. So we did everything within a 2-block radius.
Why'd you go with Swift versus like React Native or something?
Yeah, good question. Do you want to take this? Yeah, so React Native did not play good with Pikachu. So as a result, we had to use Swift with the choice. That's the only reason really. Yeah, we could have done React Native possibly, but you would have to use like Cordova and Ionic and all these other plugins to actually get it to work. It's just this crazy workaround in order to make it happen. And with the time frame, we didn't think that was realistic. The man himself.
I know that it's very difficult. I'm really impressed that you guys were able to get 2D recognition off a 3D environment. What are the limitations or successes that you guys had with changing angles and distance?
Yeah, so Aaron, you are our main 2D image recognition.
So there's a lot of factors. Lighting, first of all, lighting does not work really well with targeted image recognition. The scaling was something that we had to catch up on, like the first probably three attempts. Matching the picture, it was really tough. Like we have to, go out there, get the actual image, go out there and scope out the whole entire building. And to actually render the picture on top of it, it took a while to scale it perfectly. So yeah, it took a lot of time, but once we got it, it was kind of seamless afterwards.
We tried pulling images from the website and then use that as a target image, but we found that it was easier to actually take the live pictures in different angles in order for it to pop up better. And by the way, that's Will from the Invisible Thread and Carrie right there. So.
Did you guys mob learn anything, or did you find that like each of you diving into different things and having a specialty was like more valuable for the time?
So when we started out this project, we all jumped on. The first thing we did was just examine all the AR technologies. We picked Wikitude for one reason. Wikitude very clearly stated that it had a geolocation feature that none of the other AR technologies had. So that was just a deal breaker for any other technology for us. So we went with that just solely based on that reality. With that said, the way our project ended up, we used 2D image recognition, not 3D geolocation. We didn't know that when we were picking our AR software. If we could go back in time, knowing what we know now, we probably would have used Kudan, because Kudan is what Pokemon Go is based off of. And they have very, very strong 2D image recognition where it doesn't flash, flicker in and out. It flashes and it just holds. And it's much, much better in that respect. But initially, we thought we were going to use a 3D technology, so that way.
You touched on it briefly, and you gave us a taste when you showed the picture of the 1906 earthquake. Do you have plans to build this app out more in the direction of a time-traveling AR experience, or do you want to keep it purely architecture?
Yeah, so we originally, when I pitched this idea, before and after was inspired by the Rome Colosseum. And when you go there, if you go on a tour, sometimes they'll show you a little postcard of what it might have looked like in the beginning when it was brand new. So the original idea was to go up and look at the incredibly large, Rome Colosseum and actually flash your phone over it and see all the colors and the vibrancy of it brand new. We definitely went into this with that thought, but then we realized it's very difficult to test anything old around here that really had a punch to it. So what we did know that would have a punch would be architecture. So absolutely, we want to look back and capture all those historical moments because there's so much value in making history fun and making it alive. But for the sake of the imagery and the quality of what we had to work with, we went with the future stuff. Cool. Thank you, guys.
Thank you before I answer. That's cool. Here it comes, here it comes. Everyone put your helmets up.
That's actually true. You did bring helmets, right? You didn't get the memo?
And this is Seymour. Would you guys prefer I couldn't get your font going in.
Oh, we just open it up on the left.
Sure thing. Everything's good. We're all good. How about we view it? Present. Look at that. Look at that little thingy. Beautiful. Here you go. Guardian.
Hey. Okay, we're done. We're out. Hey everyone, we are the Guardian team. My name's Jason. This is
Sean.
Armand. Eric.
And we all started this project with basically when I came out here and introduced it, it was on the premise of safety. And I had had a recent experience where I had actually gotten, I don't know what the right word for it is, but surrounded by a group of people in the street and they stole my phone. And I was like, I would like to prevent that from happening to anyone else. And so we thought the idea of having some sort of really cool drone you could launch in the air that would watch over you and help keep you safe would be awesome. So we quick went through and we're like, well, so what's this problem actually like? And this is a map of like less than a week's worth of incidents going on the street, just like around here. And there are various things, various severities, but basically that comes down to that. And like, so it's, you know, we're in a pretty safe place, but there's a lot of stuff going on all the time. So we wanted to try to create something that would help solve this problem a little bit or get you home a little more safely. So we thought that would involve a drone, and we thought that would involve your phone. And we figured that actually doing it in this week would probably involve some other stuff, and it definitely did. So just to be kind of give a sense of what we're talking about. So we're like, so maybe you're leaving work and it's really, really late at night. You have a job where you got out at midnight and you get your drone out and your phone, and then you go and you're walking home and the drone's kind of watching over you, and it's not only kind of like talking to you in the phone and watching over you, but it's also broadcasting to a friend who would be essentially walking you home when there's no one else there, and saving things in the cloud so that you can recall them later. And then you get home and everything's good and you let your friend know that you're okay. So that's the vision. And we have a little demo video of the app that Sean's going to.
So there's two screens up, you'll see. On the left side, that is going to be Bill. Bill is the one who's walking home and is asking for his friend Jen to follow him home. Oh.
How do I?
Press click.
Come on, you do.
So,
Maybe try opening it.
Oh my gosh, this is really tricky. Okay. So again, so we got Bill signing in. So we use Devise for our sign in, and then this is going to be Bill's friend on the right side. So the first thing that happens on login is there's this walk me home button. And there are several things that will happen. So first thing is walk me home starts the drone. Using the Google Maps API, select the address, and then you'll see what happened is a text message was automatically sent that Jen received. And so this is a fake text, but that's what happened. The text was sent. So the drone is out there soon to be. So it's going to say who they're watching, and there's our live video and the map of where Bill is. So Bill can walk forward. That's our functionality right now, is connecting directly to the drone and moving the drone forward. And it went kind of quickly, but up at the top, Jen was able to click the button to let Bill know that she was there watching. And when that happened, the bar on the top for Bill turned green, and so he knew that he was being watched by his friend. So that brought up one of the tricky parts was how do you have a server that is serving 2 different clients, right? So you've got your AJAX calls and make something happen, but which client's going to hit it? Zeva helped us out conceptually with that one. We ended up using just basic JavaScript and set interval function with a heartbeat. So we had basically a state in the event that both clients could keep listening for, and then they changed. We had AJAX happening when it hit a different state. So there's our stream feed, and as soon as Bill gets home safely, he can hit safe, and that will land the drone, and Jen's phone will automatically say that he's home, and then Bill can see the rest of his events. And so then the event page will show who walked him home, and then
YouTube is awesome.
Okay, so there is a drone, and I'm going to explain how we actually got this to work. Our drone is called a Parrot drone. That's the company who makes it. And what we can do with our Parrot drone is through our app, we can make it take off. When you hit the walking button, it'll actually levitate. And then you can hit walk, which would actually make it move forward from your phone. Also, there's land, there's lights on the drone that can power on and off, and it'll stream video. So the way that we made this work was the Parrot drone has an SDK. We weren't able to use that just because it's a little old and it wouldn't compile when we were trying to get it to work. So what we did is we found online there were communities who actually hacked the drone using JavaScript. And what we did is we took their libraries and we were able to turn them into something that we can use to do these functions. And most importantly, like streaming video, take off land. And the way we did this was we created 2 different servers. There's one over here that's actually powering our app that we made, and then we have another one that's powering the drone itself. Now the way that this works is the drone is connected to Wi-Fi. So we have our computers, such as Jason's computer, connected to the drone and also hosting a node server. What happens then is the node server connects to the internet through a tunnel. So how this works is when you're connected to a drone with Wi-Fi, your computer no longer is able to actually access the internet. So he actually hard codes his computer, hardwires his computer to the internet. And while it's using localhost tunnels to the internet using a tunneling system, ngrok, I think.
Yeah, there's page
one of them.
for us, but ngrok.
And it tunnels that server to the internet so that our app can actually talk to the drone. So with our app, we talk to our drone with the internet. And that's how our app works. Cool. And then Eric's going to talk about our tech stack.
Yeah, so we used Node backend to connect to the server. AR drone was our that was our new one. That I don't know. We weren't familiar with that. We did a lot of research before we even started. We decided on the AR drone, and then we went to prize, and we were presented with a million other options. So we spent a few hours there, and then we ended up going with our original option of the AR drone. Rails, obviously, run in Heroku, Google Maps to show where you are on the drone. portfolio to send our text to the person that's watching. Page guide. I believe that was the funnel. So yeah, learnings are working with the drones, available options that was mentioned are Parrot AR drone. One of the things that we wanted to do was integrate lights into the drone as I was watching. We wanted to integrate lights into the drone. And the way we wanted to, or we ended up doing that was using an Arduino so we can program the sequence of lights. Hopefully to replicate like a police car, just kind of give notice, that there's an incident happening. And initially we wanted to be able to control that from the app, but that's turned out to be a little bit more difficult. So it's kind of more of a standalone application for lights. That's about it for that.
Awesome. So we we learned a lot, and we ran into a lot of different things along the way. We did about a couple days worth of research to just figure out kind of what drone to get, and then probably another couple days just getting kind of familiar with that ecosystem and the types of things we could and couldn't do with it. So there was a lot of kind of pre-work to doing it, and that system came with some really cool things, and it came with some baggage. So we were piling on top of kind of some really well done code and some really kind of really hard to decipher code. A lot of the reasons for the hack that we talked about there was to kind of be able to use that stack well and kind of get it talking in the ways we want to and build the app. So we're pretty excited about it. I think we're up for trying a live demo if people want to see this. And so we're going to take a second to get that set up. The drone can be a little erratic. It doesn't necessarily do what you command it to do, or if you command it to do something, it can kind of just dart in a direction for an unknown reason. So we're still going to try this with some spotters. And we're also going to connect Sean's computer so you can see that mobile experience we were going through while that's happening. So give us a couple minutes and then we'll be back.
There's no room.
So at earlier points in the project, this drone had all sorts of other cool stuff on it. And for the purposes of this demonstration and stability of flight, we took all that stuff off and put this nice wrapper around it, so hopefully it doesn't do anything bad. This is Eric's beautiful Arduino. It's you should come look at it. It's awesome. Oh yeah, and then it maybe you have to turn on the battery pack. Oh yeah, and then police lights going at night. It's pretty sweet. So it's awesome stuff. We can do that. All right. So if everyone is looking for a place to get into
Choose for a song.
So what are we gonna do?
All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through it. Sean's gonna tell it from the app to take off. And then she's gonna tell it to walk forward. And then she's gonna tell it to land. by ending the session.
My number's in there, but what should also happen is that I should, I'm in there as a person's friend, so I should be getting a text message saying that, asking me to watch Walker. Okay, so I'll just hit walk me home. And I don't enter the location. No.
No boots were harmed. And we're very happy about that. Awesome. So that is Guardian, and we're happy to take any questions.
So in the event that you're walking home and something were to happen to you, does anybody get notified besides the person who's currently watching you? Is there anything else that, like, does a pin get dropped on a map where an incident happened or anything like that?
Yeah, so our initial ambitions for the location were that it would follow you, like it would show your exact location. And we ran into issues, and Chrome and Google actually secured this recently too, where you need to have a security certificate to request that information from a device. So right now we have the location where you're plugging it in right there as a stand-in for that type of functionality once you get a security thing. And then we think there's all sorts of opportunities with this being a little bit more autonomous to both do deterrent activity and have different communications functionality.
Is there a way to notify police officers or authorities that an incident is happening?
Potentially. Right now, we're relying on that kind of like walk me home relationship, so that if someone can kind of see you and they can know where you are, that they can help you take action.
Does it also record the footage, or is that video not stored anywhere?
So right now it's not stored anywhere. We could take like pictures of the way the stream was set up, the socket to like a WebGL canvas. Like there are hacks that you can do to kind of just take a picture or many pictures of the canvas over time. So that's definitely possible going forward.
For future phases that are considering taking something like in the real world, like a drone, or something physical that has to do something, like on your march to MVP, could you give them any suggestions about, like, make sure you hammer this down first, because I was there while you guys were having some problems with drones, and that was an interesting, order of events you had to do, but like you had to do it over again. What would you make sure to do first before you plan for it?
No, that's a really good question. So, like, just working with hardware. So this drone is actually new yesterday because the other drone we had mysteriously stopped functioning at 3 p.m. yesterday afternoon. It wouldn't work, and we really didn't know why. So Eric made an epic trek down to Palo Alto to get a replacement that we kind of got working again last night. So there are just like different considerations, I think, with a hardware thing, and especially kind of a hardware thing that kind of moves around a lot. For us, I think, and we should get multiple perspectives on this, but I think like I would definitely, when you're choosing a device, like we chose this because the development community had done a lot of stuff, but the development community around this particular thing wasn't necessarily super current. So it was within the last couple of years, but it wasn't like hyperactive now. Whereas other more like DIY type stuff is definitely, I think, a little more active and supported now. But the lead time on getting those types of parts and getting that together for this type of project was super short, or was very long relative to our project stretch. So I think there are trade-offs with, I think, if anything, around kind of technical choices like that. Like it really made me think of the robustness and current kind of development community outside of your team that surrounds it, in order to have some of the support for taking care of things like very erratic drone left turns and into the ceiling crashes.
The only other thing I would add to that is being aware of the technologies already aware of. So we didn't make this a mobile app. It's mobile first, but we didn't dive into mobile app also. And so basically we made the choice to learn about and how to work with the hardware instead of doing that and figuring out a whole other platform. And I'm really glad that that is what we ended up doing. And I feel like we ended up with a more feature robust app because of that decision. And we all have opportunities to learn additional mobile platforms in the future, but to take both of those on at once probably would have been too much. So that is one thought that I would give to any team thinking of jumping into hardware, and just know that it's just a beast in and of itself.
Assuming that you can overcome any like spontaneous erratic behavior, are there any plans to add defensive, offensive capability in the future? I'd really like maybe like a beam of light that shines down upon me as I walk through the TL. That's like, don't mess around, or you might get tased from an invisible beam in the sky.
Yeah. When we first started working on the drone, like none of us knew anything about drones, but we did set up like, what is our ideal product that we would want to create if we could do anything, and we had a limited amount of time. So we did have defense mechanisms in that plan for sure, but that we had our own little feature freeze. After a while of trying to tinker with it and seeing what we can get out of it, we then decided, okay, this is what it can do. Now let's start working on how to start communicating with it, through an app. But yeah, definitely, we wanted it to actually shoot something at you.
But for now, it sounds like MVP of the defensive mechanism is it'll crash into you.
It'll chop your finger off.
That was also part of the idea with the Arduino, was to add more light, because the light on the original machine was not very strong and not strong enough to catch video in a dark environment. So it did need extra light. And so then we got into the weight issues, and it just doesn't have a very high payload, and then to figure out how to get it on there in a balanced way. Yeah.
But your dream will eventually come true, Hunter. There's really cool stuff coming out. If you check out Lily, they've got a drone that stays up in the air and takes all sorts of awesome photos of you and stays trained on you. And then another one's making a wrist-worn drone that you can detach and throw up in the air, and it does similar stuff. So there's cool stuff on the horizon. So I think there's a lot of possibilities coming.
Very cool. Can I have all the red pandas come up, please? Thank you. Before we go any further, you will be recognized. But Andrew Fish would like to say a few words.
Thank you so much, Maxwell. Okay, welcome everybody. If you're new to the space and you're here checking out the program, I'll take a round of tours in just a second. So I'll be right over here in the yoga space. Now take your photo and enjoy yourselves.